Hi, good morning. Hope you guys have had a good day so far. All right, so the purpose of this video and webinar is just to chat about uh, construction detailing and detailing in Revit, and how and strategies that you can use how to improve your productivity, etc. Okay, so the agenda for today is just looking at the topic. We're going to look at determining what to model and what not to model as well. We're going to look at some of the view properties of your existing 3D model, how that determines what you see in the details, etc. Also looking at the actual model geometry that you can use, and if you should use it. There's a concept called hybrid detailing using the 3D models as well, but we'll talk about that. And then we'll look at some of the detail components, line work and keynotes that is inside Revit that you can use to detail with. All right, I was going to quickly go through the slides, and then we'll obviously demo at the end, just showing you what I mean by the theory. All right, so first up, just obviously detailing. In the past, the idea behind Revit or the perception behind Revit is that it's just a 3D modeler, and you get pretty pictures, but nothing beyond that. But you can do everything in Revit. It's obviously a process, skills-wise. In the beginning, it's easy to work with Revit in the 3D environment, but then obviously additional skills is required to take the design further in construction detailing, etc. A lot of guys, as I mentioned, it is a process. So a lot of guys do the 3D up front, take it to 2D applications like AutoCAD, finish the models, and then or the detailing, and then maybe at the end put it together, or that sort of thing. But the idea is obviously to have everything inside Revit, because it's nice and compact, and there are cool tools to actually do that and reuse your details, so you don't have to spend a lot of time working on all your details over and over. Right, so the main thing also, a lot of guys have the perception that you need to model everything, and that is not true, especially in Revit. So the more you model, the more time it takes to create your initial steps. So the idea, now there's various different ideas, but what I find works in the industry is when you model your main drawing, model as quick and with the least detail as you can. And because changes happen, and here is where you can manipulate the changes very easily. If you over model, that constrains the change management system. So have clean walls, even no cavities, nothing, just very simple geometry. And once you've set up the design and the design is kind of 80% done, you can then start swapping out your single skin 270 walls, maybe with a double skin, etc., etc., and then obviously your details come further. But the idea is not to over model, and a rule is that you can in your floor plan, what you don't see there, you shouldn't model. It being, say, standard 1 to 100. So 100 mils equals 1 mil on the actual drawing. So when you print it out, so and that's very small. So anything that's 100 mils in real life and lower, you kind of shouldn't even look at. Meaning that even door frames and window frames, and that should be very simple. Even if it's just a generic item that gets added, that will allow you to, once the generic item is added, will allow you to change it very easily, maybe later on, and then also, if needed, refer to the details, etc. Okay, so if you're unsure with regards to the idea what to model, then what? Let me just mute. When you're unsure what to model, just make sure that if you invest a lot of time drawing up this, door frame or window frame or whatever it is, does it take a lot of time to do? If so, then then you need to start think, should I do it? Yes, you might, your detailing might go a little bit quicker, but I'll show you a different idea. Right, so the one strategy is to model at least or the least complex objects in your drawing, and not to over model and to add a lot of 3D detail in your basic plans. Right, as I mentioned earlier, in anything less than, say, 100 mils or so, don't even attempt that. Right. Another idea is, obviously, if you do have 3D views that looks at that kitchen or bathroom or whatever, and you want to make it look nice, then obviously that changes that strategy a little bit. Okay, you have to perhaps put in, say, a stove or a zinc or whatever, as the picture shows, to give the feel of that space, and to see what you're going to get. So yes, if there is critical things that you need to add that is going to enhance that space and show the user what you need, yes, then you need to perhaps add that minute detail in that space to present maybe kitchens or bathrooms. Right, but as I mentioned, window frames, doors, and that, you perhaps not should over detail, and because that can be sorted out in a window or door schedule at a later stage, or detailing. All right. Okay. So yeah. Okay. All right. So just looking at the view properties that you can turn on and off as you progress from the design stage to the documentation stage. There are different, obviously, ways to do this, and I did mention a hybrid modeling detailing concept, and that's where you use some of the 3D model that you have, your building, your walls, your staircase or whatever, and you use that in your detail. I'll show you in the demo a little bit later what I mean, and then perhaps an alternative to that. Right, but with this in mind, obviously having some part of the 3D model in your detail, you can switch things off and on. As you all know, in the left-hand graphic there, the visibility overrides. So per view, you can switch obviously things on and off, meaning, perhaps you see things that you don't want, you can obviously turn that off. On the left-hand side, there is also a depth that you can, look at when you do detailing. That's or excuse me, on the right-hand side, it's a detail of a stair, and on the right-hand side of that picture, you see lots of vertical lines. Those vertical lines are behind the staircase, and by manipulating the depth that you see, you can exclude those little vertical lines to clean up the detail. All right, so that depth is basically what you see in that section, and behind it, or the depth of that section. All right, so that can be changed to exclude a lot of the view information. Right, why would you do that? Maybe it's too complex and you want to change things, you want to get rid of things that are happening behind it. and that'll help. Okay. Then looking at the specific model geometry, again, this is more used in the hybrid environment. Again, we'll talk about that, but you can use the physical layers within each object, like walls or roof. You can actually use the cut profile tool to remove parts of those layers, but only in the section, right? Which means that it's not physical 3D modeling. It's just in that section or detail that you've or call out that you've made. You can manipulate the layers of each of those hosts, either being at a wall or a roof or ceiling or floor. And in this case, there, that orange truss item gets cut with the pink lines, revealing the wall behind it. So to give way to that. So you can manipulate that. That's obviously, there's lots of videos, etc. I'll show you a little bit as well a little bit later. But all right, so that can be done. All right. All right. Now also, I'll also show how to complete detail, meaning that you can use blocks or detail components. If you have AutoCAD experience, think blocks, and then obviously repeating details. Take that block and array it, and I'll show you the productivity that you can leverage from that particular tool. All right, and then we'll talk about changing of line work and also build regions and keynotes. All right, keynotes are key when you do the hybrid modeling, or even in your normal 3D models. They're not as productive in a pure 2D environment. All right, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so I just want to get my videos going here for the demo, and then I will. Right. Okay, so let's start up. Revit is started up. Okay, so firstly, I'm just going to show the stock standard drawing that we have there, and this is the sample drawing that Autodesk has provided with the software. And just to start in the beginning, obviously there's a little building, and that little building has, that's how it looks. It's got a building section here, and so that cuts across the model. And you'll see that there is a call-out place here. Now I'll do it again later on when I open a drawing from scratch, but I just want to explain. All right, so this is a call-out that's been created. It creates obviously a different view. If I go to typical wall section, there's the typical call-out. Obviously, this is to a higher scale, so 1:20. The previous one is 1:100. And you'll see that more detail is shown. Now, obviously, that's just with a coarse, medium, and fine change that you can make, meaning that perhaps in the building section, there's less detail, and you can make it, say, coarse or whatever, and you just see the objects. But then in a higher detail, you can see fine mode. So that's fine. This obviously are the 3D items, and you'll see in each intersection there or connection there is a additional call out. So these additional call outs, you obviously can go to the view or just double click the icon. You can get to that particular detail, and this is now obviously to a higher scale as well, 1:10, and 2D lines have been added in addition to the 3D model. Now the 3D model, and that's what I mentioned is the hybrid modeling. You've got your 3D roof there and the wall there, and you've added 2D lines to it. Obviously, to exclude certain things, you can go and go to the annotate and maybe add a masking region to exclude a certain item, meaning that or region, I'll just go to, just to show, I'll go to invisible lines and just simply just draw something over there. All right, so that would basically just like a piece of hatch, but it excludes the 3D model behind it. And as you can see here, you can then draw using 2D lines over that piece and recreate the the connection how you would want in using 2D lines as opposed to having the 3D object there. Right. Also, if I just undo that, also I just want to show you the. I'll just if I delete that and delete that. If I look at the cut profile, as I mentioned earlier, this roof obviously has different layers, and as you can see there, and you'll see that this wall also has different layers. Now, this is the piece of truss, so I can go to modify, and I think it's view rather, cut profile, and that cut profile basically allows you to influence either the border between two 3D objects or the cut away certain things. Right, so there on that foundation it gave way to the piece of wall and to show a different thing. So anyway, I'll just go to the cut profile. There's the option. In this case, I'll just use the face. So I'd select that truss, changes to orange, and then I can manipulate this. I'll draw kind of two lines over there, and this arrow is important. It shows the side at which it's going to be filled. So this is going to be filled, that's not, and that's going to be filled. If I finish that, then you'll see the truss remains there, but that piece is removed from that truss, and what's revealed is what's happening behind it, perhaps the the wall, or the that's perhaps something else there. Right. Okay. So if I just show it in color, you'll see there's the yellow truss, and that piece is taken away using the cut profile. So that just changes the 3D model, and it's only it changes the 3D or the 2D view of the 3D model. So it doesn't change the truss in 3D. It's just in this view that it adjusts the object. Right. Now, so the idea with hybrid modeling is great because you use the 3D model and you adjust and add either change the cut profile, add lines, arcs, and circles, maybe adding additional components and that sort of thing. However, there is a restriction in this, meaning that you cannot reuse the detail as productively as you want to do it. So now, meaning that only the 2D objects you can actually save into a library. So if I go to this typical roof connection and I go and say save to new file, it doesn't save the 3D objects. It only saves the 2D objects out or to be reused. So that's the idea that we want. So yes, the hybrid way of creating details has got a place, but I just want to show you another idea. All right, so I'll close that drawing, and I just want to show. I'm going to just open up a new fresh drawing. I'll use my little demo item. Okay, so it's basically just got heights. So I'll go to the ground story, and I'll just draw a little smallish building, just to get the idea across. Okay, so there's the walls. These walls are going up to level 2. Going into that level, I'll just add a roof, basic roof with a slight overhang. Okay, what you see is the view range, which is cuts off the height. So I'll just what I normally just use. I'll just add a little 0 in here, add a little 0 in there, and that allows that to happen. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, going back to ground story, I'll just go and add a line through here, a section line. Right. Yeah, so I've got a little eave idea, and what I'm going to do now with this is just, you can, that's your normal 2D or 3D drawing. Yes, you can attach that to the roof to just kind of clean it up a little bit there, but no wall plates, no tiles, nothing. It's just very simple, and you carry on with your plan. If you starting to develop this, you can go to the view, Callout, and this is what we saw earlier. It's just it creates additional view for this particular eave, I guess, and that is situated here under the sections. There's the view name. We can rename it, call it something different. In this case, I'll just go to it, and then now maybe change the scale here to 1:20. The idea here is to take this 3D items and as an alternative to what I showed you earlier with that in that standard drawing where they had the hybrid environment where you've got part of the 3D models and part of 2D ideas. Yeah, I want to just show you the different we only use 2D lines, arcs and circles, but we use the 3D model, as you see here, as a backdrop to that, and then eventually we'll not see it. Right, so as a medium or in between stage, I'll just change this to half tone. So it just creates the 3D objects as gray. Now I'll start using and creating my detail. All right, so I can start with detail lines just to give you an idea of what they are. Maybe I'll create a little bit of a truss scenario over here. Maybe going across there, and maybe tracing over the truss. Now, obviously, you can offset and doing all of the necessary to get it 100% right, etc. But you can. The idea here is to trace over the existing 3D model with 2D items. Okay, so we can also add regions, maybe some sort of cutaway, or if you've got some sort of, let me just go here and say wide lines, and draw a little, maybe some sort of lintel. That lintel obviously doesn't have concrete, so I'll just edit that and maybe duplicate it, call it concrete, and just add a fill here of concrete. I'll just make that a little bit less. All right, so it's a little bit finer. Okay, finish that. Okay, so you can add lines, you can add a little bit of a hatch, that sort of thing, and then obviously you can add components. These components are like blocks that assist you to reuse certain things. Now, if I go to the component, there are some here that we've already set up, but they're very similar to the stock standard ones. Maybe I add a little wall plate there, and there's some wall ties that I can also add, that sort of thing. But at this stage, I'll just add that. Two other things that I might add here is the break lines. These are nice to just allow your model to stop. It's kind of like a stopping mechanism to just indicate where your detail now stops. I'll just create similar here. Just spacebar to change. Right. Okay. So I can draw lines. I can add hatch or fill, and I can add components. Now, where it starts getting interesting and where the productivity gains are is these repeating details. So using these repeating details of maybe brick, I can just add the brick in there and maybe over here, sort of thing. Obviously, these are determined by the height of that, which is just random. But I can move these up. Maybe all of that. Just move it up a little bit. So. All right. Okay. So I can now go further and maybe have buttons applied. Just do that again. There's some buttons going that way. I can then go and add tiles. Over those. Maybe just over there. Spacebar to turn it around. And obviously this guy we just need to bring to front, just to hide what's behind. All right, and so very quickly I can start, creating a duplication of my original single components, and these are just repeating detail components. So it's got a certain uses. If I just go to one of these to show you, it just uses the tile detail component to a fixed distance of a certain distance between. It's got certain rotation and things that you can add. All right, and so very quickly, very easily, I can draw a little 2D item, and then at the end, I'll go and say, right, do not show the 3D model. Okay, what that then allows you to do is remove the 2D or the 3D model, and so it's now not hybrid detailing anymore. It's just purely the 2D idea. Now, if you stand back and you think about it, all right, I've drawn a very basic, generic walls and roof and that. Why? Because changes happen often, and then I come back here, and then here is where I put in the actual detail. And I'll spend some time because I have in this sort of scenario. There's one or two lines that I maybe can just add here. Maybe just do that sort of thing, and maybe do that sort of thing, and etc. Okay. Now, so this is the idea that you have, and then when you go to your, maybe your sheets, I've already got some plans there. There's some schedules and elevations. But let me just go and say sheet here. Just add this section. All right. So there's a little section, and then the call out just next to it. All right. So that's the idea. Have it very basic in sections and in plans, and then do the call outs. Now you'll ask, okay, how can we reuse this sort of thing? Before I do that, I just want to talk about keynotes and annotations, and then we'll finish up with the reuse. All right. So keynotes, that's basically the tool that links to a little text file that contains all your text or notes. You can then use that Keynotes tool to annotate objects. Now this one isn't set up, but if I want to, set it up, there is right. So there's this one is one that I've set up earlier. It's my little database, but it doesn't perhaps have any reference to that object that I want to done. It's got doors and windows and various other things. There's the path to that. Right. So what I'll do is I'll go manage. I'll go annotate keynotes. I just want to go to the keynote settings and just go. I just want to see if I reload that. I'll go view it. Things. I'll go browse and go to the C drive, program data, Autodesk. That's just where all the libraries are of all the information. So I think I put it there under templates, not the. There's my child notes. Okay. All right. So I've just moved a little bit. Okay. So this one I've added the details to. Now I'll show you how to do that. So I'll just kind of path back to it. So this guy now I can select and then go and place that little detail or use the little note, and it'll then add the note to that item. so without me typing anything. Now, just looking at the Keynotes and the little text item here, if I edit that, it's just a text file. You can obviously manipulate it in Excel, but it's got a series of numbers on the one side, so that needs to be unique. Press Tab, type your note, whatever you want, and then just Tab, and again the high level that this note applies to. So it's got a subcategory of 500, which is obviously details. All right. Okay. So that will then just save, and you can then, if I now go to that little guy again, and there's my little 502, which I'll just add it as an additional note underneath 500. So it just gets like subcategorized. Okay, so so these notes you can manipulate, add your own however you want, and they can then be added. Now, there's one kind of glitch, obviously, you know, with duplication, doesn't want to add that. So if I go to Keynotes and, well, not Keynote settings, but just element Keynote, it doesn't want to pick up the repetitive ones. But certainly you can maybe just have a single one on the end and then repeat it, and then you just dimension that single item. All right. Okay. So that's a little bit of Keynotes. There's different, you know, discussions that you can have over that and about that. But once I've got my detail now on this first drawing done, and I'll stop with this, I can then reuse it in future projects. So meaning I can take this, you know, section callout 1, maybe I'll rename that to EU detail, and I can then take this guy and save it to a new file. It's just basically right-click to save to new file, and the desktop rather. Okay, so I'll just, there's the EU detail, I'll save that. All right, so I've basically just right-clicked that and saved it as a new file. Now, in this particular drawing, I'm now finished. I'll print this out. This was project 1, and now I'm done. All right, so I'll just kind of save that to close it. This is now project 1 now. Right, now I've saved that. Now I'll go to a second project. This one I created last week, but if I open that, just also a small little house, a couple of objects. It's also got a little section across the one side, and it's also got a little call out. Right, now, as I mentioned, this is project 2. Now I'm at the point where I actually want to reuse that EU detail that I created, you know, earlier. So what I do is I just go to View, or Annotations actually, or Insert, and then I'll say, right, just import insert from file. So I'll say insert 2D elements from file. So which means that I want to just bring in you know, that EU detail that I've created earlier. So let me just transfer that. Okay, so now I can just reposition this, maybe move it in position how I want it, and you know, just with the arrow keys on my keyboard, and that's basically done. I can then just take the 3D object away, so that I'm only seeing the 2D one. Obviously, this sort of thing I need to redo, you know, path to the particular keynote for this particular drawing, but you get the idea. Without doing anything, if there's slight differences, maybe there's a slight difference with this, you can just you know, manipulate the 2D items, and because this is just kind of a standard EU detail that you've reused, and you're never ever going to have to draw that up again because you've already kind of put it in a library wherever and reuse it for each project. All right. Okay, so that's the idea. Obviously, if you put that then on a sheet, it's you know, the same idea as earlier. All right. So that's one way to increase your productivity, is to reuse details. And you can't, when you do hybrid modeling, meaning you've got 3D and 2D in the one detail. As I mentioned, go to that detail and just switch off or half-tone the 3D model, trace over it, and then eventually go and do not display the 3D model, revealing your 2D items. All right, and then obviously the 2D modeling or the 3D modeling, don't over-model. Model objects just as generic items, and then spend the time creating the details. Okay, so that's the idea. Returning back to the conclusion. All right, so basically using these strategies, as I mentioned, with regards to the modeling very generically in 3D, and then taking it over to the construction detailing. In there, you obviously add lots of 2D information. You can reuse those, so they're not lost for this particular project. Using these strategies, you can speed up your detailing a lot. Right. So if there's any questions, you're welcome to ask. I'm just going to stop the recording. So thank you very much for attending. You are welcome to leave as well, but I'll open the floor to any questions you need.